Haha, look, I didn't want to watch this. I have a love-hate relationship with DreamWorks. They can make something magical and inventive like Shrek, and then produce a turd like Boss Baby. In more recent times, the quality from studios like Pixar and DreamWorks have declined significantly. I mean, where did all these great writers go? They haven't retired. No, they are apparently the same writers still working in the industry today. You know the guys who wrote Kung Fu Panda? Yeah, a great movie. They're the same guys who wrote this fantastic story about an underdog panda who learns that destiny is in his hands and there is no such thing as luck. Well, they're the same guys who wrote the Alvin and the Chipmunk sequels and Trolls. I wasn't expecting much from the Croods. It was an original story and yet it didn't even feel like one. But then again, you could say that about any original movie. There's always elements drawn from previous works, so I shouldn't be so harsh to judge. They cast Nicolas Cage in a kids movie, and let me tell you, if you think that will tone him down, you are very wrong. Just watch National Treasure, or this. Yeah, I'm glad that they gave him the full range to be over the top. I enjoyed these scenes of nonsense. Sure, I felt my IQ declining at a rate like no other, but to be honest, there wasn't much in there to begin with, so I'm probably on the same level as the writer's intelligence. The Croods opens with the daughter Eep giving an unnecessary exposition about how they live. It was quite self-explanatory. They're cavemen, they're a family. It's the Flintstones, what more needs to be said? What the... Yeah, this is not Earth. We've been lied to. You could have made an effort to research the creatures in the... What period is this supposed to be? Pliocene era? I mean, look at the creatures of this period. They're not so different to the ones in Ice Age. You could have just stolen... drawn inspiration to use for this movie. This whole sequence of them hunting for breakfast was fun. I felt they could have done better when it comes to slapstick humour. There were a lot of references to pop culture like Release the Baby, which if you don't know what it refers to then you won't get it. I didn't mind these kind of gags, but to me it all seemed like stalling. But I wasn't really focused on that. I was just baffled by the leopard-spotted mammoth being chased by... I don't know what that is. There is no way this is Earth. It has to be something else. I don't believe that the Crood family have survived for as long as they have. All they got on their hunt was an egg. Are they dumb? There are about 5-6 different creatures that would have lasted you a whole week. Humans have been using tools and weapons for a very long time. Even in this period it would be completely plausible for cavemen to carry a bone-shaped weapon to hunt for food. Otherwise they would get a lot more than just an egg. I really don't understand this world. Because they're not trying to go for the Flintstone look where it's in 1960s America but the houses are made of stone. They're actually trying to survive. But they would be dead already. It looks like they're living in some desert wasteland. Surely you would live near a river for water, or else you'd just die of dehydration. I didn't like the baby. She was just doing her best Jack Jack impression, but it didn't work. Just came off as lazy.
Well, that's all right. I ate last week.
I don't know how these people are alive. So the dad has a stupid rule where they can't leave the cave at all unless it's of course chasing for one stupid egg. Eep is the typical teenager who rebels and wants to see the world for herself. Are you seeing any patterns here? Any similarities? Because it's very hard not to compare the father and daughter relationship to the Little Mermaid. She wants to see the outside world but her father forbids her. I've seen this one before. I wonder if there will be a love interest for her. Yep, of course there is. Because that's what this film needs. One thing that can't be disputed is that this family has to be the strongest and most agile in human history.
Last moments of terror still frozen on her face.
This confirms that Cage was the perfect casting for the film. I don't get why being grounded is a form of punishment for cavemen teenagers. Are you supposed to tell me that Americans have been grounding their kids since the dawn of humanity? It was probably on the draft list for the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt punish child by way of grounding. I can't deny that the animation isn't great. It's pretty damn good. But this scene when they discover the jungle just reminds me of Ice Age 3 when they find the land where dinosaurs live. Like, how did you not know this existed? You didn't even have to travel that far. It was right under your noses. Now they're starting to live up to the caveman name. Because they're stupid.
Go!
This right here, this is death. No amount of branches would be able to keep you alive from a fall that high. I thought Grug was a protective father, but his first instinct is to jump off a cliff rather than grab a rock and throw it at this leopard thing. Even though all the creatures are fictional, I have to admit that the design is pretty cool. But at the same time, it was confusing for me to grasp what world this was. I wasn't expecting a National Geographic representation of this period, but this whole setting didn't even feel like Earth. It could have been a completely different planet on the other side of the galaxy, and I know for a fact that this is not what the writers intended, because if they did, then this story would actually be good. I have to say the sloth was really annoying. I prefer Sid. I can't believe I'm saying that. I would rather watch Sid than watch this annoying little turd. I'm assuming that the Croods are Neanderthals and Guy is a Homo sapien. So if this is the case, then why? But then again, this is a world where there is a whale walking on land while being eaten by a flock of man-eating birds. And by the way, that's a pretty disturbing thing to show in a kids movie. The writers must have really been on one or just had enough at this point. This is what I don't like about this movie. Its inaccuracies and unclear descriptions making me do my own research about humans and Neanderthals. And if Neanderthals were actually humans and coexisted. I wasn't having a fun time watching this movie. I was looking at Wikipedia learning about Neanderthals. I liked this small gag between Grug and the grandma that went on through the movie. Obviously it's a typical in-law from hell plot. Grug really doesn't get on with her because she's always berating him and calling him useless. When the grandma says this will be the death of her, Grug would put on this devious smile. This I liked because it meant I got to see someone die, which really says a lot about me considering the demographic this movie is targeting towards. So this guy, called Guy, yeah, he was annoying. When you're trying to act like you're smarter than everyone and you have these complex and innovative ideas for survival, it's difficult to find you likable. His ideas weren't even that good as well. They were so overcomplicated and time consuming. He tries to bait this bird thing by creating a female puppet bird, and it doesn't even work. It makes me wonder how he's managed to survive. Surely he would be smart enough to make a spear or some kind of weapon. All you have to do is just stay patient and hidden in plain sight, wait for the prey to expose itself close enough and throw your weapon at the bird. And voila, dinner is served. Whoa, okay, that's a bit graphic. Again, what were these animators on? Hang on just a minute. You have to be an incredibly deep sleeper not to hear all that rumbling that would cause the land to just collapse. And they're out in the open. One of those weird creatures could have attacked them in the night. Would it have not made sense to have one person on the watch? But I guess it wouldn't be as dramatic as having an unrealistic earthquake. There were so many interesting possibilities that could have made the movie better. So here's an example. So Guy, he should have fled and gone to his clan. And this will culminate in the third act where the clan of sophisticated humans take on the Croods. And in spite of being heavily outnumbered, they must learn to work together as a family to fight for their survival. And when they're on the verge of death, Grug shouts, "This is Sparta!" Okay, fine, I copied the plot to 300. But what's so original about the Croods? The creatures? Yeah, maybe. But definitely not the story.
I've seen rain before, right?
I hate this guy. Another Ice Age reference. I'm sorry guys, I can't help but think of that film whenever I see something remotely similar in time period. What in the hell am I looking at here? What are these things? This is not Earth. This is getting weirder than the creatures in Fantastic Planet. Guy and Grug begin to see eye to eye with one another. And the reason being is because Guy lost his family. Who knew family was all it took to end the feud? Vin Diesel was right all along. I didn't really buy into Guy's sad story. Maybe it's because being stuck in tar is the most idiotic way of experiencing a tragedy. It couldn't have been something believable like eaten by a predator or killed by disease. But no, it had to be the tar monster from Scooby-Doo. Hold on, wait a minute. End of the world. The father as the main character. He has a method of transportation where animals board onto. This was Noah's Ark the entire time. You're telling me I spent 90 minutes watching a biblical movie disguised as your typical kid-friendly animated adventure? I mean look, if you want to get accurate, this scenario that the Croods find themselves in doesn't make any sense at all. They would all be dead by the age of 40. It's amazing that the grandma's made it to the age she has. Why aren't the family following her? She's lived the longest. She has the experience and wisdom to know where the right place is to thrive as a race. And there are so many question marks concerning their mental health. I mean, Grug has stories to keep them entertained, but other than that, they're stuck in the cave for the whole day. Their skin colour would be extremely pale through lack of sunlight, ergo melanin. They're more likely to die of disease because there's literally no plants or forest area to provide them with medicine herbs. The anachronisms were pointless and idiotic. They stretched so many time periods into one here. I mean, shoes did not exist in this time. Footwear had been around as far back as 10,000 years, but definitely not in the Pliocene era. Guy would not have existed in this time. He has the features of modern day humans, and these features only date back to 50,000 years ago. The era that the Croods are supposed to be set in is 3 million years ago. No Neanderthal was around then. Our ancestors look like apes. All I have to do is find this out by Google and Wikipedia within a minute. If that's all it takes, why didn't the writers or producers bother to do the same? Oh, I know why, it's because they didn't care. Let's have a bunch of made-up creatures in the film so it doesn't seem like we're blatantly ripping off the Flintstones. I think the best character for me was definitely Grug, not just because of the excellent voice work from Nicolas Cage, but I honestly related to him the most. He was trying to protect his family, perhaps with too much protection, but his intentions were good-hearted. When Guy came into the picture, it made things a lot easier to find Greg likable. He was insecure when Guy started showing the family new ways to survive. He felt like he was losing his daughter and he wasn't in control of his family because of Guy. This movie could have explored the nature of males and mental health, but I feel like this plot was purely incidental and not given much thought. In the end, the Croods struggled to entertain me. There were some bits of humour that worked, but for the most part it was derivative and monotonous. I couldn't stand it when Guy would come up with things like, "I call it a brain," and "You've never heard of a joke before?" Maybe if he wasn't in the movie, I would like it a lot better. But for me, this film perfectly encapsulates the quality of films that DreamWorks produce.